Good morning, guys. It's Naveen John on call. Can you guys hear me? Could you please type in the chat window? Rahul, Shubham, Kajal, can you hear me, guys? Great, thank you. Sorry about the delay. So let's get started, guys. And today we'll discuss, we will dig a little bit into AWS code build. We'll try to create a couple of other pipelines and we'll try to automate the complete using the AWS code build. Yesterday, we did not build the AWS code build, guys. So today we'll see how to work with it. It's a slightly deep one and maybe a little complex one. So, but we'll try to simplify and try to understand, guys. Okay. Okay. So let's say build AWS code build. Code build is about building the service in the cloud. It is a member of AWS developer tools. Building the service in the cloud. What is building is? Building means you're doing a code build. Code build means generally we write the source code, then the source code is built. And once you build, you have the binaries ready. The binaries are generally used for during the runtime to run an application or maybe a service or maybe a web server or an application server and things like that. Those are generally plugged into the containers, and we've talked about the containers and the Dockers. So the problem is when all the developers are done with their code check-in and they have successfully tested at their end, they will check in the code and their final build is done. But what can happen is a fix done by one developer may actually break somebody else's scenario, and their test scenarios, their test cases may start failing because of the changes introduced by other developer. And this happens because of the experience of the developers and things like that. So in a way, if we are somehow able to automate in the sense, if we are able to catch these early, then we can save a lot of time. The development team will save a lot of time, not only their team, but also at the time of integration when they're selling the build package to other teams and integration teams and things like that, testing teams and so on, their time can also be saved. So if there is a way somehow we can catch these things early, what is that? That is where the build comes to our rescue. We can write the test cases and the test, the unit tests, and whenever the developer is ready, the unit tests will run, and if the unit tests run, then we can go ahead and successfully do the build. And that is what is the build is about, guys. Okay, we'll try to dig a little bit deep into it. It is a member of the AWS developer tools, means it is managed by the AWS, guys. So in other words, if we try to maintain a separate build server, we need to manually take care of it, and a lot of configurations, a lot of steps are involved in taking care, especially when there are multiple teams involved in a business or an enterprise environment. It gets very complex. Small things will become very, very deep and time consuming. And many times there will be a lot of dependencies which will be hard to catch, and that will create a problem. So because it is a member of the AWS is going to manage anything from its end, and we don't have to do anything additional. We can focus more on what is important and not the other integrational aspects and things like that is what we can. It can also work with many other tools within AWS, and AWS by themselves test and make sure all those things are working. It is serverless and fully managed. Serverless means, again, we don't have to pay. If we were to use a commercial tool or maybe take a license of the open source tools for professional versions and things like that, we may end up having license costs, and we need to maintain a separate physical infrastructure, separate software license, and as a result of that, we are paying for the cost of the server. Serverless is just pay as you go and pay only when you need it. So in other words, that will be very, very cost effective. And fully managed by AWS, again, AWS takes care of all the things. Scalable, automatically scales on demand. So just in case there are too many apps coming up and the build cycle or the build is taking too much time and we need to scale up or scale out and things like that, that kind of scenarios also can be configured using the AWS service, build service, and it becomes easy, it becomes less time consuming, less complex, and helps the business focus on their business more than the other aspects, guys. Okay, it's very cost effective. As I said, you don't have to maintain a dedicated infrastructure, dedicated licenses and things like that. We can just pay as you go for and pay only for what you use for the minutes and your build projects. Okay, so at a minute level or at an hourly level, we will be build is what it is, guys. Okay, moving to the next slide. It acts as a command line in your pipeline. So in other words, again, we can issue the command line commands, and we can also automate it. It uses Docker containers to launch your build environment. So the entire environment is plugged into a container, and it will launch it in the form of containers. And we have already discussed about the advantages and the uses of the containers, guys. Okay, you can use the Docker images, code build, provide as well as the images on the Docker Hub and Amazon ECR. Again, Amazon ECR Elastic Container Registry is where all the Amazon related Docker's containers are can be maintained. So in a business or an enterprise itself, a lot of applications are being built, and there are a lot of dependencies. They all can go ahead and register in Amazon and take a private hub as part of their ECR and register all the containers there, and they can internally use. So that way they don't have to open it to the public and any of the internals of the organization, guys. Okay, you maintain your own Docker images in this ECR. Docker Hub, we have already discussed it. It's meant for the public. Anybody, as the companies are building different kinds of products to showcase what their product can do and things like that, they package up into a container and image and plug it into the Docker Hub so that others can get a feel of their products without much hassles, installation hassles, and maybe become their customers also, guys. Okay. Code build provides standard images for Ubuntu, Amazon Linux 2, and Windows Server Core. In other words, the support is there for both Linux and Windows operating systems, is what it is. Moving a little ahead, now here comes a little deep on build spec. Build spec is a file that we need to build manually. It's a YAML file. We discussed about the YAML containing your commands and runtime environment settings. We'll briefly look at that and try to get a feel of it. Generally, it is a collaboration of the Devops, the Devops team with the developers who will actually build the YAML files. So in other words, the Devops knows, the developers know what kind of environments, runtime environments and other dependencies are there. We cannot expect the Devops to know because the development team actually develop it in collaboration with the Devops. They come up with the YAML file. This could also be done at a slightly architectural level and just ideally passed on to the DevOps team in the real world. The architect or the team lead would have the right idea of what the runtimes and the other dependencies of the internal and the external applications are plugged into the YAML file, guys. Okay, so that is that's a build spec, and we will look at that. It can be provided as a file. It just comes in as a regular file as part of the source code, and we will see this. It can also be defined during the project creation on AWS code build console. So we can also use AWS console, and we can actually build it as part of the AWS console, and that also will try to have a look at that, guys. Okay. So you provide your commands under the build phases. They will be executed such as install. Install means these are install, pre-build, build, post-build. These are nothing but they are telling, they are the components of the build spec, and they are telling what are all the surface which need to be installed before you build it, what are the dependencies which need to be there after, and then you build it. Build is when you are actually building your source code and generating the binary files or whatever the files which are needed. Post build is after building it. You may want to wrap it up in containers, Dockers, and things like that. That is generally what is plugged into the post build component of the section of that, guys. Okay, we can define runtimes in the install phase. So again, in installation phase, that's where we say, hey, we need Node.js, Ruby, Python. These are the runtimes we give. We can specify the versions. It allows us to specify the versions. It is supported for Ubuntu standard 2.0 or later, and Amazon Linux 2. So these are the two base operating systems which for which the support is already there. The others it will work, but I think these two are actually supported by the Amazon guys. So output artifacts are defined in your build spec. So what is it? When you build it, what do you get? Well, you get a group of files, the binary files, the other kind of configuration files are coming as the output. That is referred as the output artifact. You can configure which files will be included in your artifact and their base directory. So we can explicitly say, hey, after you build it, put all these things into this directory and save everything in there is what we can say. That is what they mean by configure. Not every build project produces an artifacts such as building Docker images and publishing to Amazon ECR. So these are the tasks or the actions which don't necessarily have an output because they are actually getting uploaded to Amazon ECR, and the build is just generating the containers, or the image is just generated, and that's what it is, guys. Okay, moving a little ahead. We can define the environment variables for your build environment as key value pairs in the build spec. In other words, within a build spec, it is like a JSON. It has a key and a value, the YAML file. And besides AWS Code Build, has integrations with EC2 Systems Manager, Parameter Store, and AWS Secret Manager. In other words, these are the things which are part of the ECS, where we can we can plug in the usernames, passwords, and any kind of confidential information into the secrets manager, and build spec can read directly from there. It is possible to configure it to read it from there so that we don't have to share the usernames and passwords with anyone, guys. Okay. We can also define environment variables in the code build project settings, which means generally at a container level, any of the environment which are variables. For example, the volumes, the networks, and any other settings which are reused at a multi-container level or a multi-Docker host level can also be specified in the build spec. This is slightly advanced, but just giving you an idea. And it can be used in the commands. By doing this, we can make build spec files reusable for multiple build projects and environments. So the same build spec can be used by multiple projects, multiple clients, multiple containers, and multiple things, and also vice versa, guys. Okay. We can use the same source code and build spec for different code build projects, and we can create build spec files for different code build projects in your source repository. In other words, we will see this, but just a high-level explanation. What happens when you reuse the same build spec for multiple code build projects is it becomes standardized. For every project, you don't have to go through all the challenges and learn new things. You try to normalize. You try to understand at a slightly high level. As I said, the architect of the team lead will have an idea of the complete environment, and he will define the build spec and he will keep it. And whenever new features, new apps are getting released, he can reconfigure the build spec in such a way that they could be used for further projects and further scenarios and further features which are being released in the future. That is what is the advantage of that, guys. So more from the high level architecture can be embedded into these YAML files. And by looking at this, somebody will get a quick high level architecture, high level design aspects of the architectures of the application and things like that. That is what is the intention of these things, guys. Okay. We can add code build projects to the pipelines. We create the pipelines. A pipeline again internally. We can we plug in the code into the code commit, or in other words, that acts our source code repository. And the output from the code commit is fed into the build. The build is a skip that we've been skipping until now. And build is where it will create a build spec file, or we create a build spec file and we can give it, and which is kind of maintaining high level architecture. And the output of that is again deployed to the AWS, guys. That is generally how it works. Pardon me. We can also create a standalone code build project. So just in case we want to use it outside the code pipeline, we just want to build a code build project again to be used in a separate scenario and things like that for a separate project or an application, just to maintain the standards and keep everything in sync. That is also possible, but again, that really depends on a very specific scenario, guys. Okay, we can schedule the executions of the code build projects for every small thing. For every small chain would you like to build, or maybe we can schedule them maybe hourly, or maybe daily, or maybe a weekly, so that based on the criticality of the application, that can also be done, guys. Okay. Security against data in transit is encrypted via SSL certificates and signature version signing process. So short and sweet, data is encrypted. Data at rest is encrypted via your customer managed keys for Amazon S3. Your keys are managed by the Amazon Key Management Service. So in other words, data in transit is data in movement. Data at rest is data sitting. Source code is the data which is sitting. There might be some other config files which are flowing from one container to another container, or through the network, or across the network. Or maybe the code is built and the code is being sent to the other parts of the network for working in other servers and things like that. It will be encrypted. More precisely, it is not generally the code. It is generally the data which is involved in the network traffic movement is encrypted, is what it really means, guys. Okay. We can also integrate it with the Amazon Key Management Service, so we don't have to plug in too many keys and values and very confidential data into this one. It can directly read the keys and the values from the Amazon Key Management. And we can use IAM to define who can access to AWS code build. So again, that's just not only a convenience, but it's a good standard to be able to configure using IAM and give only specific rights and permissions and roles to some people who can perform the build or who can access the builds and things like that. Pipelines use IAM service roles to execute your build projects. In other words, as we create pipelines, if you notice, if you recall, if you are able to recall, it is separately creating a IAM role for every pipeline, and during the code builds, these pipelines or these roles are getting reused, is what it is, guys. Okay, so let's see. Bring this up. Rahul, back to you, buddy, if you're logged in and things like that.
Yes, sir.
And let's see, you're on C1. I think there are a few things that we need to do yesterday. I think yesterday we built a pipeline. Can you access the pipeline, please? Let's see where we were. Pipeline V4. Let's. Can you go into the pipeline V4? Is that the last one that we created, Rahul?
Yes.
Okay. Can you also go open up your Git bash where you executed all the commands? Let's take a quick look at the history and let's have a quick review. Okay, this system, you don't need to worry about that. But let's scroll up. By any chance, do you recall what is git add dot or git init and git add dot?
First, we are initializing this local repository, and then we are adding this file in that local repository.
Okay, so basically we are adding the files to the local repository is what it is. Then what is commit?
Commit. We are committing.
So short answer, you can say you're committing it. In other words, more precisely, you're confirming it. Once you add it, you may want to be able to remove it and you may want to delete it, modify it further. But when you commit it, you are saying, hey, I'm confident. At this stage, I can commit it and I'm ready to make it available to the rest of the world and things like that is what you're telling the local repository. Catching it? So initialization is where that's your first version of the file that you're checking in is what you commit is where you're checking in. Until you check in, it is not available. It is not ready to be available to the others. What is git remote add origin?
Yeah, we are adding this file to that code commit repository in AWS.
Very good. Why should we add it to the code commit repository, or what is the advantage of that?
We can use that code commit in the pipeline to deploy it in the production environment.
Good. So in other words, code commit is a source code repository of the Amazon, and it has many of the features available of the other source code repositories, and it will also allow us to automate the CI/CD. It is one of the first steps, or it is the first step in automating the CI/CD process. And to be able to achieve the CI/CD, we use the code commit. We can create the pipelines, and the pipelines execute the CI/CD is what it is. Then what is push? Git push 489.
This remote at repository in this command we are not uploading the file, but when we do this git push origin master, we are pushing the files in the local repository to the code commit in master branch.
Good answer. So in other words, more precisely, we are committing to the remote repository. Once it is made available in the remote repository, anybody around the world who has access to the repository can access them and get a snapshot of the changes that we have done and things like that. Okay.
Yes.
Scroll up a little bit, please. Just such. Okay. Now let's go back to the AWS console. Okay. What is disable transition?
Disable transition. Yeah. We are after this code commit gets successful, the artifacts which are created get in transition or sent to this deploy state. So we can disable that transition by clicking this button, disable transition.
Okay, go ahead and disable it. You can give any reason. Let's say testing. Okay, now go back to the source. Go back to the AWS code commit. You can click right here, the source. Under the source, there is AWS code. No. Okay, yeah, go ahead. On the right-hand side, if you see under the source, there is AWS code commit. If you, here below already. In the first stage, source stage.
Yeah.
So it directly takes you to the repository. You can save a few clicks and things like that. Go ahead and click on index.html. What is pull versus push, Rahul?
Pull means we are pulling from the repository, data from the repository, and push means we are adding data to that repository.
Good answer. So in other words, push is you're pushing from local repository to the remote repository. Pull is you're getting from remote repository to the local repository.
Okay.
Okay, change the version to 2.0. And before you change that, open up another tab, just access the buckets. And go to the bucket that we created for this one, which is maybe website production. Huh? Can you just double check that in the code commit thing? Just verify what is the bucket here. Settings. I think you can look at the build deploy settings. I think under deploy, look at the settings. Applications on premises instances. Shouldn't be that difficult. Below there is something called settings. If you scroll down, yeah, click on that. Notification rule, connections. Click on connections. Let's see. Click on the deploy. It is when we're deploying it into the production. Click on that, and let's see, deployment configurations. Okay, How about the artifacts? Repositories, and how about the build? Sorry about that. Build projects history and metrics. It should be that difficult to find this one.
It is maybe there in the.
Just quickly click around and see if you're able to detect the, just to be sure. We are looking at pipeline V4. And let's see. Click on the pipeline V4. Now scroll down. There it is. So hands on, click on that. So what is this one? Source prod M3. In the URL, if you look at the source prod M3, go to the properties and bring that up. All the way down. There you go. So right now we have version 1.0. Now go back to the place where you were editing that file in code commit. Yeah, change it to version 2.0. Cool. Commit. Give your name, Rahul, and say, give your email maybe. Okay. And commits, go to commits. Yeah, your commits. Okay, so let's say, click on commit visualizer. These are the two ones. How about click on compare commits? Okay, put the destination is, what is the name? Index.html master default branch. Okay, let's see. Select that one. Yeah, select master. And on the right hand side also, master, say compare. There are no differences. In the filter, just type in index.html. And then the destination also just put index.html.
Not allowing
Comments. These are compare comments, right? Comments, okay. Just it's not allowing. Okay, go back to the compare visualizer. I just want to give you a quick feel, and this is something which might be useful to you. Click on the top one, FB67. Yeah. So there is Rahul. Scroll down. There you go. So the difference is the red one is the old one, and plus and green. On the left hand side, you have plus, which means you added version 2.0. Catching it?
Yes.
Many times we may want to look at a few files and quickly compare them and things like that. So just go back to the previous one. Go back and go to the previous one. Look at the previous comment. Click on comments. And let's see now, look at the first one. I'm sorry, second one. I don't think there'll be anything here. Scroll down. So this is how it was. And here we go. Cool. So now you have already changed to version 2.0. Now go back to the pipeline. And let's see what we have. So now notice in the source where it says edited index.html. In this stage called source, there is an action called source. Under the action, yeah, there is edited index.html. That is what we have done. We have edited it. And if you scroll down a little bit in the deploy, in that stage, there is a deploy action. But notice the source is initialization. The source initialization, have you seen it? Under deploy and deploy, yeah, highlight that. What is that? That is the one that you have committed yesterday. If you recall, we did a git commit initialization. So the deploy stage is picked up to the previous one. So in other words, one more time, go to our website and just refresh it. Refresh it. And notice still we have 1.0, but we have actually changed it to version 2.0, right? So now, are you with me, Rahul?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So now if you go back to the code pipeline, what we have done is we have disabled the transition. Ideally, a pipeline is something where it will run the stages or all the tasks one after one. But since we have disabled it, it did not. So now go ahead and enable it. Enable. Let's give
It will automatically deploy in production.
True. So notice it says in progress. And notice the source is also, it is now taking in edited index.html.
Yes.
Okay, and let's give one moment for that.
Yeah, it is success.
Oh, succeeded. Go ahead and refresh it. 2.0. Catching it?
Yes, yes.
For the sake of simplicity, we made a small change, but ideally in a scenario, you may have a web page where it's connecting to multiple databases, doing a lot of the things and so on in the front end, and all those complex tasks are being triggered out. So what do you do as you check in? All the changes are happening automatically. Catching it, Rahul?
Yes.
And let's see what else we have. Where we are. Version 1.0. Okay, we have disabled it. Then we have checked it manually. Okay, one more time for the sake of the simplicity, go back to code commit where you have the edited version. Change the version to 3.0. No, not this one. Is it this one? No, you can't edit this one. This is only for looking, for comparing it. Go back to the website repo 1. My website repo 1. Yeah. Go to index.html. Edit it and change it to 3.0. Okay. Save it and give your name, things like that. Commit message also, just say edited version 3.0. I think email is mandatory too. Commit and now go to the pipeline. Should be able to pick up right away. If you look at the pipeline, scroll up. So that is right now, you don't have to refresh, it should automatically pick it up. The edited index is there. Scroll up, please. First stage. Go ahead and picking up, refresh it. There you go, it picked it up. If you now notice, it says edited version 3. It just went real quick before we can catch it. And notice deploy is also successful.
Yes. Good version 3.
Good one. So now click on the refresh the website. There is 3.0. In other words, the pipeline got triggered automatically as we went ahead and checked it in this one, catching it.
Yes, yes.
So now here's a slightly tough question, Rahul. We have made the change here to version 3.0. There is a small problem by any chance. Can you take a guess what is the problem?
One problem can be that we are directly deploying it to the production environment. we may have different environment to first test it, then we will deploy it into the production. Maybe that is one.
Very good. Our development environment is maybe out of sync. It could be, let's say it's out of sync with the production because we made the change directly in the production, catching it ready.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So generally the config files and things like that, they can be changed and in production because you maintain different usernames and password, but generally the code will not be changed. But even if you were to change config changes and things like that, or any of the not so complicated changes in production, we can, the pipeline is getting triggered and so on. Okay.
Yes.
And let's say now, so how do you sync up your development environment? How to sync?
Yeah, we can add multiple stages, and in between there is one development stage, and we will disable this transition. So after the successful deployment and development, we will enable the transition.
Okay, good answer, but that's a slightly difficult question. To be more precise, bring up your Git bash. And now what is the problem is our local repository is out of sync with the remote repository. Earlier, how did we sync up both of them?
We are doing this remote add origin.
Okay, that is the second step.
Second step is the, and then push origin master.
Good. So this is, so what is opposite of this step?
Opposite will maybe we can pull from there.
As simple as that. So go ahead and pull it. So before that, just verify you're in the right directory. Upside or something like that. Okay. And just cat the index.html. We're still in version 1.2. Oh, there we went ahead with two of the changes.
Yes.
So now pull it.
Should I run this?
Yeah. Okay, now verify the index.html. So notice it says one file changed.
Yeah.
Cool. If at all we make any changes there, this is how we can sync up the local changes.
Yeah.
Let's move to the next topic. Let's see where we are, which is nothing but one of the stages we missed is code build. So let's say a slightly deep one. Okay, let's start with the code commit. Let's create a new code commit repository. Just click on repository, yeah, create repository. Just say Rahul underscore rep1 or something like that. Just so it's easy. Yeah. And copy the clone from your HTTPS. Now, let's say you copied it, okay. Now go back to the NSC on the G drive, on our G drive. And let's see, what we have. Access the NSCIT. Download 2 files from here. The first one is myangloproject.zip. We'll start with this one. We'll come back. Okay. Open that angloproject.zip. Pardon me. And remove the spaces. Oh, okay, the hyphens. Okay. So this is, yeah, go in here, go into the directory. So in git bash, we'll access this directory. Keep that in mind. You can do a cd in git bash. I think you need to give double backslashes. So you need to try double backslashes instead of single backslash for everything. Okay, good one. Increase the font size. And my Angular project. Okay, now back to the AWS code commit console. We have already downloaded this one. And let's see. So back to again, you created a repo called Rahul_rep1. You want to keep that in mind. And you have cloned this one. So clone the URL and copy this if you've already done it. So that will copy the, so now come back to git bash. What is the first thing you by any chance recall the first step that we need to do in order to commit it?
Add origin.
Pardon me?
First we need to add origin there.
So we'll start with init, git init. Okay, enter. And reinitialize existing. Okay, it's already initialized. Okay. So now git space add space dot. Enter. Then look at the status. Where are you? How come you have only 4 of them? You have package, you have source. What do you do then? Git status modify. In the map, my Angular project. Why is it showing only 2 files there? Restore. Git status. Okay. Let's say you have already done git add dot, right?
Yes, already.
Yeah. Okay, then go ahead and let's say git commit -m, and within double quotes, say V1 Angular project, space Angular project. Enter. 4 files, no. Let's say something is right here. It's not 4 files. 4 files changed, 45 insertions. Okay, so 45 insertions is there. Now go back to Git commit console and click on repositories. Click on whatever this one was, Rahul Rapon. Okay, this is HTTPS. And click on commits on the left hand side. And give me one moment, Rahul. Sorry about that. Okay, sorry about that. So let's see. So why are there no commits, Rahul?
We haven't added that origin for and the link of this PowerPoint.
Good answer. So go back to the Git bash. And you need to say, give me a Git remote. What is, yeah, can you just look in the history? What is that full? I don't know if this will show the history. Just type in history. I think it's something like git remote add, and then you copy paste it, right? Scroll up, please. Yeah, git remote add origin and paste the URL. Don't copy that because you already copied the URL. Scroll down. So it should be git remote add origin space and paste the URL. I think it will ask you
again.
Yeah. It may ask you for the username and password again.
Enter.
And now you need to push it. So just see what is the command. So git push origin master. It's not asking username. Okay, so now go back to the code build and just refresh it and verify if all the files are added. V1 Angular project initial commit. Okay, click on the top one. No, it should give us list of all the files and things like that. Where did we see that? Do you recall? Is it in comments?
Yeah, after clicking on commit, it shows the 4 Angular projects.
Something is something is missing. Let's see. Do one thing. Go back to this one. Go back to the Git bash. Let's say rm-rf.git. Yeah, enter. So now git in it again. And what we'll do, see if you're able to go back to the code build and code commit and delete the repository. Go into repositories. Try deleting that. Create a new one. Just say Rahul Rep2 or something like that. Whatever you like. And what do you do? Okay, you read git in it. Manual project, okay. Now say git add dot. Do the status. Okay.
Now,
Okay, then we need to do a git remote, add origin, I think that was a command, and then paste the
git
remote. Add origin, space and paste the URL. Then push it. Then git push. Pardon me, remote origin, I think.
origin master.
I'm sorry, yeah. Origin master, master origin. Okay, try it. Master origin, I think. Oops, just checking the history. Git push origin master looks good. Okay. What's the problem? Have you tried this?
To push some reference to master.
So fail to push some refs to the master. Git push. That is master origin. What about git push origin master? It says fail to push some refs to the Node.js rep one. v1/Node.js rep one. Git push origin master. Was we did not ask for the username and the password. It won't ask for you because you're in the Virginia region. For some regions, it will keep prompting continuously. But let's say push origin master. Can you, let's say when you said git remote add origin, it did not complain. So it looked like that command is okay. Git remote add origin is okay. Just have in history, add origin and scroll up and make sure that that's what we have given earlier also. Git remote add origin, right?
Yes.
Okay, no problem there. But when you say git push origin master, have you given the correct name? Origin is origin, master is master, push and git. It's good. Everything looks good. Can you try one more time git push origin master? And fail to push some refs. Okay. Source does not, source ref spec master does not match. Something is, let's say, just for sake of discipline, we'll redo this one more time. RMRF the dot git. And say git in it again. My Angular project, there are 3 folders there. Are you sure?
Yes. Yes. They are all the files.
Okay. Now git add dot next status. Okay, it's good so far. Changes to be committed. And next is git commit. There you go. We didn't commit it.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
I'm sorry. Git commit -m. Oops. See if you're able to escape or quit out of this one. Enter. Okay. Enter. So now do a git commit space -m. We'll call this as version 1, Node.js or Angular. Pardon me. Enter. Now do a git remote add origin. AC URL. And yeah, now push it. Git push. Is it origin master? I'm sure. Remember? Sorry about that. I keep getting confused. Yeah, git push origin master. You're right. Should ask you for the username and password. Oh, sorry. You're in Virginia. Okay. Okay. Now go ahead and verify it. Verify all the files are there in the commit.
Showing all the files, but
Scroll back, please. Go back. Yeah. Why is it showing only one? Commit ID. That's a commit ID. And let's say click on browse. There you go. And let's say over here, this is the AngularJS, right? There's a file called index.html. See, there's a file called index.html. Go into source. Yeah, click on index HTML. And let's say, is there a version 1 or something like that? Anyway, we'll just say Angular project. Okay, that's okay. We'll keep it like that. And now we have pushed it, verified it. What do you think is the next step for us to do, Rahul? Tough question.
We need to add this as a source for that code pipeline, and then we need to build it, and then we need to deploy it.
Okay, good one. First, let's create a bucket. So code commit is going to be the source. The destination is going to be the S3. You can say whatever your bucket. Okay, Angular bucket 1 or something like that. And okay, this in US East Virginia, right? I just remember the location. ICL's enabled. And let's say unblock. Good. Scroll down, versioning, tag strip home, advanced. I think you can create it. You want a short 5-minute break, Rahul? Sorry about that.
Yes.
Thank you. Let me know when you're back, Rahul.
Yes, Krishna.
Okay.
I created
Created the
bucket
yeah.
for the static.
Static hosting, yeah. You can give index as index.html, error also specify it as index.html. Save it. Verify it. So what is the problem, Rahul?
Currently, there is no data. In this bucket.
It is?
There is no data inside the bucket.
No. This bucket is for production, buddy. This is the destination.
Yes, yes. I thought you are asking for this. Why this error?
No. My bad. You answered it right. Okay, my bad. I think okay. What do you think is the next step we should do?
We need to create pipeline.
So you can open another window.
Create.
Yeah, create a pipeline. You can click on advanced settings. Default is okay. Good. Click on next. Should be code, so should be code commit. And what was Node.js step one? Yeah. Branch is master. CloudWatch is okay. Default is okay. Next. Now build, we will choose code build. Yeah, I think you need to create a new project. Say build one or something like Rahul build one, or maybe Node.js build one, Angular build one. And you can scroll down. Yep. Managed is okay. Choose the operating system. Maximize this window. Ubuntu is good. Runtime standard is good. Image, choose the latest one, 5.0. Linux is good. So it brings up the environment for Virginia. It seems to be doing okay. We had some issues there. Okay, new service role existing. Maximize this window, could you? And let's say scroll down. Additional configuration. So this is just in case the build time is taking too long and things like that and not completed in 1 hour, it will time out and do that one. We don't need that. Scroll down. Just in case we need any environment variables that's in advanced container to container communication, we can add them here, but right now we don't need to. Scroll down. Mount is an additional volumes can be put here. Use a build spec file, click on insert build commands and switch to the editor. So a build spec file would ideally look like this. So here, so there is a build, there is, oops, stick to that. Version is 0.2 And then you have parameters, phases. Phases is under phases, you see pre-build, build, and post-build. If you look under the phases, there is the install, what you want to install. Then you have the commands. There is a pre-build and there is a build commands. And then you have the post-build. These are the different phases inside the build stage. And just in case we want reports and anything like that, we can also specify them here. So now go back and select use a build spec file. And the build name is optional. Scroll down please. Yeah, you can continue to the pipeline. Okay, so back here, again, one more time, environment variables, scroll down. I think you can do next. Deploy, yes. And we want code deploy. And Virginia is good. Application name, no options. This is in the deployment stage.
Or we should select here S3.
Oh, sorry, my bad. That's Amazon S3. My bad. That's what I was wondering when thinking so much. Yeah, choose the bucket is, I think it is Angular bucket 2, right? I see. And extract the files. Additional configuration. Canned ACL. Read. Click on next. And let's see. So pipeline settings, we have artifact, service role name, scroll down. Action provider, master, false. Output artifact, scroll down. Project name, deploy. Scroll down. Okay, looks good. Create it. And let's see, source is in progress, okay. Coming to that, Ankit. We'll prove that and then we'll specify that, okay? Okay. In the meantime, scroll up is the code, code commit is done, okay? Let's say scroll down now. Build is in progress, okay. While click on the details, in the build, details, yeah. And let's see, build has failed. There is a logs. So now if you look at here, take a look at the last second line. It says the download source state fail. And then you have the YAML file error message. YAML file does not exist. So it is looking for a YAML file. In other words, that is what is the build spec file.
Yes.
Go into the phase details. And these are, so it starts with submitting it, then it gets queued up. Provisioning is where it's creating the containers, then it is downloading the source and finalizing and completed. So these are different steps. So right now when it is downloading the source, it did not find the YAML file error. That's what it is indicating. Then click on reports. No reports, environment variables we have not specified. Build details, code pipeline, and that is the source version. Service roles, okay. Next, VPC, I don't think we have anything. Utilization. And let's see. So those are the metrics of the CPUM on which it is running. Right now we don't have anything because maybe. Click on view in CloudWatch. So all the logging and the very detailed eventing, if we want, we can also look here. A lot of analysis can be done in CloudWatch. CloudWatch metrics, and let's say scroll down. This is just so you have an idea. Click on any one of the details. Okay. But it should be able to take you more deeper. In the 5 minutes, this is what happened. You can select your period and things like that. But let's say go back to the G drive, and there is a file called buildspec.yaml. Yeah. Download that. Open that. Okay, so version 0.2, that is, I think, the latest version. And what we have is the different phases here. Under the phases, we have install, pre-build, build. We don't have a post-build. So these are the different stages. And in under install, we have something called runtime versions, where we are saying we need a Node.js 12 version. The runtime version has different kinds of applications that you need, the software's tools that you need, what runtime versions are needed. So that is indicating 12. Then you have the commands npm install. So that will install Angular and Node.js. And the pre-build is before doing a build. You need to do npm install Node package manager install. So that is what is required to install Node and other kinds of Angular stuff and so on. That is pre-build before you build it. Then in the build, you're doing ng build. So where it is taking the source code, and I don't know what exactly is the binary nature of the Angular project and things like that, Node.js. But that is what it is, the build is. Artifacts is, we're giving a directory dist my Angular project. So that's where all the output of the build is going to get saved. And file *** is we are giving all the, it's like saying all the files in this needs to be picked up and saved here is what it is indicating.
Yes.
So it's a lot more detailed. There are again some references of the build spec file. Ideally, we don't need to know every attribute and things like that. But most of the times we have to work with either the team leads or maybe 1 or 2 developers who's responsible for developing the build spec YAML and just get a feel of that. So now what we will do is go ahead and save this file. Now what you can do is you can create a new file. Go to Git bash and copy this one and paste it into that file. You can save as from here, or you can do a VI here. VI build spec dot. Just make sure you have the right this thing. Case dot YML. I think it's build spec buddy, not specs. Enter, paste it. Build spec. Okay. Write and quit. Okay. So now do a git status. So what does it say? Untracked files. Build spec is here. So what we want to do is we want to add it. So do a git add. Should detect this one. Should try to add it to the
Git add.
dot. And the left will be replaced build spec. The file will have its own original line index. Warning is okay. Do a git status again. So that is a new file, buildspec.yml. That is only change it detected here. Catching it? And now let's do a git commit. -m. Just say added build spec. Enter. Now what you need to do is you need to push it. You push origin master, okay. Okay, now go back there, verify in the code commit. See the file. Build spec, and now go to the code pipeline. It should automatically pick up the change. Code pipeline, it's code build. Click on the pipeline. Pipelines. Yeah. So it automatically picked up. It's in progress right now. It succeeded. And build is in progress now.
Will it pick that file automatically here, or we need to specify that we need to use that file? Like there was an option when we are creating this build project.
Okay, I didn't get your question one more time, Rahul.
Yeah, when we are creating new project for this build, at the time of creating build stage, we have created one new project, and there they are asking for that build spec file. We
Yeah.
need to paste that file there, or it will pick automatically.
It will pick automatically. That is what is happening here. At the time of building, it is looking at the build spec file. We didn't have the build spec file. That's why it did not succeed earlier.
Okay.
What are we trying to build? Now step S3. And step is S3. Yeah. Once you build, then it will be deployed, Aniket, to S3. After the build, S3 deployment will happen, right? Let me know if that answers your question. Yeah, the output of the build is going to be deployed to the S3. And let's say, click on the details under the build. And tail logs. Okay, this is the complete thing. You can just say tail logs and you'll get the latest one. So right now it is upload status artifact succeeded. Expanding. And start time 2 minutes ago, still tailing. Expanding, okay. Oh, okay, you just scrolled it up. go back and see if it is succeeded. The build is succeeding.
Yes.
So build is succeeded. Okay, click on that. And yeah, properties. Okay. And just put some numbers. Cool. 13 plus 34, 37. Yeah. Clear is clearing. So that is the app. So what we have done is we have built the build spec file and we have specified the right versions. That's where you may end up spending some good amount of time trying to understand what are the runtime versions. That's what the generally the architects or the team leads will help you in getting what are the versions and things like that. They should generally have a good idea about them. Catching it, Rob?
So we don't need to specify that file there. We can directly upload it. Will pick up automatically.
When
That
you
aspect builds the spec file.
have to commit it, buddy. When you're committing it, you are actually checking it in. You did not upload it manually. You have actually committed it in Git.
Yes. We can we can specify there also na, right? When we are creating that project.
We can. You mean directly specify it in the builder?
Yes, in build they were asking about that build spec file, and we haven't uploaded it.
Yeah. Short answer is yes. I think you can go ahead and just go. If you were to copy paste that one,
yes,
and, put it into the inline editor,
yes,
it will take it up. True.
okay.
Can we verify what exactly is there in S3 now?
Okay. Back to S3. Now go to the buckets.
These are the files builded by code build, right?
Yeah. The runtime, the polyfills and things like that, the kinds of JavaScript files. Ideally, if it was another Python app or things like that, the Java app, I think you'd find the .class files and things like that. Catching it, am I answering your question, Ankit? Okay. Okay, let's see. Okay, I think I should have actually told you earlier this. Today, actually, I wanted to wrap up a little early because I'm actually traveling out of town for the festival, guys. I thought of taking it till 12, but I think I'm slightly ahead here. So for today, I will wrap it up here. And there is a slight chance on Monday I may be missing this, so I'm not yet sure because I have to come back from my village. And there is a slight chance I'll be traveling and things like that. So I'm just giving you a heads up just in case I'm not able to make up. Just thought of letting you know so that you can plan alternatively and also take care of the stuff, guys. Okay, fair enough, guys. Everybody.
Yes.
Okay. So for today, allow me to sign off here. Unless you guys have any quick questions and things like that. Rahul, any questions from your side? Okay. Aniket, okay, buddy? You got the message? Okay. So guys, you guys have a good weekend and wish you a happy Sri Ram Navami. You guys take care, stay safe and keep learning. I will try to meet you back on Monday. In case I'm not able to, I will update Lakshmi and she will update you guys. So you guys take care again and stay safe and keep learning. Signing off for today. Thank you and bye for now, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.